It was my junior year of high school. I went to church camp, and as part of the week of camp, we got to hike up to a place that's called Hanging Lake. Hanging Lake, there's a picture. There it is. I didn't take that picture. Hanging Lake is just outside of Glenwood Springs, Colorado. Beautiful place, but you have to park and hike up the mountain to get to Hanging Lake. That's why they call it Hanging Lake. It's up high. And I can remember that day hiking up this mountain, enjoying ourselves. Me and my friends as we climbed this mountain to what was really a beautiful spot. And we spent some time up there. It was a great day. Then it was time for us to come back down the mountain and head back to where we were having camp for the week. And as a group of high school boys, we decided it would be a good idea to race down the mountain. And so we just start running. This next picture shows you the trail. It's super steep. Especially in portions. And so what started as running became more of jumping. And I got moving pretty quick for me. I don't think it's going to break any records, but I was moving pretty good. And watching the rocks up ahead, thinking I'll step on that rock and I'll step on that rock. And I can remember taking one step, and when I looked to see the rock that I was going to step on next, there was not a rock. And so I face planted into the ground and slid for what felt like the length of a football field. And my friends ran by, and they laughed, and they can't stop. And I can remember laying there for what felt like forever. I stood up, I finally made my way back down the mountain, and of course everyone was gathered at the bottom, and after they let me know I was in last place, they asked me, "Are you okay?" And I can remember saying, "I am fine. Just fine. I am fine." Inside, I was not fine. I can remember then saying I needed to use the restroom so that I could step away from them and go to a place where I could be in pain, because I did not feel good. My face was scraped up. My shoulder felt like it was dislocated. But more than anything, let's face it, it was the pride, because all the girls that ran past me, that laughed at me, I knew all hope is gone with them, if it wasn't already gone. But hey, I'm fine. I'm just fine. But I was not. I was not okay. I tell that story because this evening we're going to start a 4-week series on the topic of depression. And I think that there are a lot of people who were living a very wonderful life, enjoying it. It was a life they thought was great. And then they came to a point in life where, like me coming down that mountain, they hit a really rough patch. Completely turned their world upside down. And our response frequently when people ask, "How are you doing?" is, "I'm fine. I'm okay. I really am okay." But deep down inside, we are not okay. And I think it's time for us to start talking about some of these things. You may be one of those individuals who has reached a point in your life where you are not okay. You may be on the outside pretending like everything is fine, but on the inside, you're in pain. Maybe not a physical pain, but an emotional pain that is dictating your life. It may be because something in your life happened that turned your world upside down. We have just finished what for many of us has been the hardest year and a half of our lives, and it's still not over. And I think there are some of us who in the past year and a half have had traumatic things happen to us that have completely changed our life. Maybe we've lost a loved one. Maybe we've lost a job. Maybe we have been faced with some challenge in our life that we never expected that we would encounter. Maybe for you, it's just life is not going the way that you expected it would be going at this point. You thought by now you would have a certain job, or you thought by now you would have a certain family, and life has not gone the way that you thought it would, and the result of some of these things may be that you have these feelings that begin to creep up inside of you, and you just feel down. You're not sure what it is. For some of you, you may not even be able to pinpoint exactly what it is that's doing it, but there's something inside of you, and you just feel down, depressed even. And our response naturally tends to be to tell people, "I'm okay. I am doing just fine." When the truth is, we really are not okay. So over the next 4 weeks, we're going to talk about how we as Christians can come to a place where I think we can have joy. Even if we have experienced depression, even if we have gone through great trials, I think that with the help of God and the help of our brothers and sisters in the church, we can get to a point where we can experience joy. Now, I don't want it to sound like that's an easy thing. I don't want anyone who is here that may be dealing with depression to hear that and think, oh, this guy thinks that 4 lessons are just going to fix the problems that I have. That's not the case. When the elders and the staff started talking about this subject, we want this series of lessons to be a starting point for you, a place where you can begin to get the resources and the help that you need in order to deal with the depression that you're dealing with. I don't want it to seem like it's easy. I don't want it to seem like it's not a process. I also don't want it to make it seem like everyone's depression isn't different. It's going to be hard for me to talk broadly about things that you may be dealing with in a very specific way. But I think that by opening up and having these conversations, it helps us to feel more comfortable talking to one another and maybe getting to a point where we can say, you know what? I know I've said otherwise, but really, I'm not okay. Some of you have been listening so far and you are thinking, that's not me. I enjoy my life. I'm not wrestling with depression. And you shouldn't feel guilty about that. I hope for your sake that God continues to bless you in those ways and that you can continue to be free from those struggles. But let me just tell you, number one, you never know when your world can come crashing down on you. There are many times when individuals who are living a wonderful life, free of major struggles, suddenly get a phone call, and guess what? Their life has been turned upside down. And so we want to prepare you in case those things do happen. But secondly, if it's not you, I can promise you there is someone in your life that is dealing with the things that we're going to be talking about over the next 4 weeks. And I believe that Christ can be a strength for anyone in any of the struggles that we are going through, and I believe that it is the purpose of the church to be an extension of Christ's strength into the community around us. And if we are not equipped to help people with the struggles that they're dealing with, then we're not doing what Christ has put us here to do. And so I pray that you won't deal with the things that we're dealing with over the next 4 weeks, but I pray that you'll listen to them, take note of these things so that we can be a resource to those around us as well. Over the course of these next 4 weeks, we're going to be talking about the person Job. Job is a very long book. It's a very interesting book. I don't have time to go through all of Job, but guess what? Mel does, and he's doing a series on Job on Wednesday nights, so you can go to that class and get all the nitty-gritty. But we're going to talk about Job and his story because Job is an individual who deals with great depression in his story. And we're going to talk about that in the coming weeks. But I think there's a lot that can be learned from Job in the way that he handles the pain that he deals with, in the way that he wrestles with the feelings that he has and comes to a place while he's still hurt, he can still experience joy. But in order for us to do that, there's a couple things we need to know about Job. Number one, we need to know that Job was a righteous man. If you've got your Bibles open still to Job chapter 1, where Samuel just read for us, I'm going to read a few more verses. We're going to read Job chapter 1, verses 1 through 3. This is what it said. It says, "There was a man in the land of Uz whose name was Job. That man was blameless and upright, one who feared God and turned away from evil. There were born to him 7 sons and 3 daughters. He possessed 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, and 500 female donkeys, and very many servants, so that this man was the greatest of all the people of the East." So, blameless, upright, fearing God, turns away from evil. We actually read that Job would get up early and offer sacrifices to God just in case any of his children sinned. I mean, Job was an upright, righteous man. We need to understand that. And on top of all that, Job was doing really well in life. He's got all this property. He's got a big family. He's rich. That's probably what it means when it says that he is the greatest of all men in the East. Job's rich. He is wealthy. He is righteous. He has everything going for him in life. That's the first thing we need to know about Job. He was a righteous man. Second thing, and probably more important, that we need to know is that Job still suffered great loss. Despite his righteousness, despite his faithfulness to God, Job suffers great loss. And we read about it in verses 13 through 19 of that same chapter. Job chapter 1, starting in verse 13, this is what it says. Now there was a day when his sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house. And there came a messenger to Job and said, the oxen were plowing, and the donkeys feeding beside them, and the Sabeans fell upon them, and took them, and struck down the servants with the edge of the sword. I alone have escaped to tell you. So all his servants, except for this one who escapes, are gone. Verse 16, while he was yet speaking, there came another and said, the fire of God fell from heaven, burned up all the sheep and the servants, and consumed them, and I alone have escaped to tell you. So his sheep, his servants, they're gone. Verse 17, while he was yet speaking, there came another, said, the Chaldeans formed 3 groups, made a raid on the camels, and took them and struck down the servants with the edge of the sword. I alone have escaped to tell you. Verse 18, while he was yet speaking, there came another and said, your sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house. Behold, a great wind came across the wilderness, struck the 4 corners of the house, and it fell upon the young people. And they are dead, and I alone have escaped to tell you. So that list of all the blessings that we read through that Job had in the first 3 verses are now gone. Gone. In one day, all of those things are gone. Job woke up righteous and wealthy, and he went to bed without anything. Okay? I need us to understand both of those facts because they are very, very important in understanding how we deal with depression. Yes, Job was a righteous man. He was a good man who was doing his best in life to please God, and he still suffered loss because bad things happen to God's people. I don't know about you, that's not something that I like. When I say that, it doesn't sound good. I want to believe that if we just do good things, then we're going to receive all blessings. Life will be easy for us. But that's not what we read in Scripture. I think there are many out there who want to know the answer to the question, why do bad things happen to good people? And the Bible doesn't just say bad things happen to good people. It says that bad things will happen to the people of God. When you live a righteous life, when you strive your best to be what God wants you to be, you are not promised that you will not still endure great struggles. That is important for us to understand because as you are wrestling with the depression in your life and the struggles that may have brought about that depression, you are likely wrestling with some doubts. Why me? Why, if these things happen to me, I've tried my best to be faithful, I've lived a good life. Why now am I dealing with all these things? And it is important for us to all understand that bad things do happen to God's people. It is part of life. Now, we're going to talk more about that because I understand some of you are sitting there and you are thinking, I did not show up depressed tonight, but now I am because Jeremy just brought us all down. Look, I understand how that concept seems depressing, how saying bad things happen to God's people makes us go, well, that's not enjoyable, and it's not, and I understand that, but until we find that foundation, until we understand that underlying principle, it's going to be impossible for us to come to a place of joy in life. And that is because, number one, we will always be caught off guard when bad things happen to us. Well, wait a second. Why is this bad stuff happening to me? I've been doing my best and bad things. Well, we're prepared for it now because it's promised that even when we do good things, bad things will still happen to us. And it also prepares us in the sense that when those things do happen to us, we can learn from them and we can grow from them and hopefully come to a place of joy. So let's look now at a couple of things that I think that we can learn from Job's situation and will hopefully help us get to a place of joy. Number one, we need to know that God is in control. Know that God is in control. We skipped over a few verses in chapter 1, and I did that on purpose because I wanted to come back and read it. But Job chapter 1, starting in verse 6, this is the dialogue that we read about that happens between God and Satan before all of these bad things happen to Job. Starting in verse 6, it says, Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, And Satan also came among them. The Lord said to Satan, "From where have you come?" Satan answered the Lord and said, "From going to and fro on the earth, and from walking up and down on it." And the Lord said to Satan, "Have you not considered my servant Job, that there is none like him on the earth, a blameless and upright man who fears God and turns away from evil?" So when we talk about Job being a righteous man, like God is bragging on Job. He's like, "Satan, have you seen Job? He's a good guy, isn't he? There's nobody like him." So when I say Job is righteous, I'm not just saying he's a pretty good guy. I mean, if you are on the level where God is boasting about you, you're doing it right. Job is a good man. But verse 9, it says, "Then Satan answered the Lord and said, 'Does Job fear God for no reason? Have you not put a hedge around him and his house and all that he has on every side? You bless the work of his hands, and his possessions have increased in the land. But if you stretch out your hand and touch all that he has, he will curse you to your face.' And the Lord said to Satan, 'Behold, all that he has is in your hand. Only against him do not stretch out your hand.' So Satan went out from the presence of the Lord." Now look, that is a difficult passage to read, especially if you've never read Job before. Some of you are probably sitting there and thinking, like, wait a second. Satan just walked in. God was saying all these wonderful things about Job. Satan says, "Well, Job is only a good man because you've done all these good things for him." And God says, "Test it. Whatever you want to do, you do it, and you're going to find out the true character of Job." We may read that and think, "God, like, what are you doing? Like, why would you do that to Job? He's a good man." But God has a plan, and God's plan is bigger than our plan. He sees things that we don't see. And it's important for us to remember that while we, as the reader of Job, get to see this conversation between God and Satan, Job does not know about it. Job doesn't know why he's suffering. All he knows is he had great things. He's been a good man, and suddenly these bad things are happening to him. But we need to understand from this chapter that means that God is still in control. Now, he allows Satan to do things. He may allow things to happen in Job's life, but we need to understand that there is a difference between God allowing things to happen to us and God making things happen to us. Why would God do this to me? Why would God make this happen to me? God may have allowed it to happen to us for a purpose, but never in that situation does God lose control. He is still in control. At any moment, he could have done anything he wanted, and he could have taken that back. But he says, "Hey, you can do it. I'm allowing this to happen." God is in control. And so you need to know, no matter what you are facing, no matter how much it feels like maybe God is not there with you, God is still in control. He still has your back. Nothing gets to a point where he goes, "Oh man, I did not expect this." There are days where my wife leaves me at home with the children, and I feel in control at first, but we reach a point in the day where I'm like, uh-oh, things really got away from me. Like, we're gonna try to make it look like our home is in order when Carrie returns, but I've lost control. That does not happen with God. And I think there are some people who view it that way. Well, look at my life. Things must have just got too crazy and God lost control and he's like, "Well, good luck, I'm here, but I can't really do anything for you." That's not the case. We need to know that God is in control. Now, that may create a problem for you because you may be thinking, well, if God is in control, then why are these things happening to me? Number two, we need to have the right view of God. I think for most in the world, their view of God is if you do good, then you will get good. If I do good things, I will get good things. If I live a righteous life, God is just going to give me blessings. But that's not God. Do you know what that's called? That's called karma. People in our world believe in it. If I do good things, then eventually good things are going to happen to me. If I do bad things, eventually bad things are going to happen to me. That is karma, and I think there are a lot of people within the church who believe that's how God works. If I keep doing good things, God will keep doing good things to me. That is not the promise we have in Scripture. The only promise that we have in Scripture is that if we continue to do good, God will still be there. In fact, if you want to take that do good, get good, you can take one letter out and it will be true. It was not do good, get good, but if you do good, you get God. That's it. Now, I don't mean if we do good things, then we earn God's love. But what I mean is if we live holy and faithful and righteous lives, the only thing we are promised, God is still going to be there for us. But we have to have the right view of God. If we have the view that if I do good things, God's going to give me good things, then as soon as bad things happen to me, my mind is going to begin to go, well, wait a second, that's not how God works. Why are these bad things happening to me? You may be facing struggles in your life right now, and you have asked God, why me? Like, why is this falling on my plate? Because I know you're the God of the universe. You could speak, and these problems would go away. Why me? Because if we are good people, good things should happen to us. That is a worldly view, and we've got to change it. Now look, that doesn't make it easier, but it will help if we understand the right view of God, and that is if we do good, God promises He's always going to be there with us. And that should be enough. Again, that's difficult. It takes time for us to get to a place where we can accept that more. But Job understood that God gives and He takes away. That God can bless, but He can also take those things back. And he's going to say that here in a second. But the third lesson that I think that we can learn from Job is that we need to strive to have a mindset that says, if I lost everything, I would still lack nothing. And what I mean by that is, with all the blessings in my life, just like Job, if I woke up one day and those things were gone, because God is with me, I should be able to say, I'm okay. Now look, it will hurt. In fact, let's read about Job's reaction to what happens to him in chapter 1. Job chapter 1, verse 20, this is what it says. Then Job arose and tore his robe and shaved his head. So that's his first response. And if you're not familiar with the customs of that time, that is a sign of great grief. He tears his clothes, he shaves his head. Job is not like, oh, those are good things, but God's still with me, I'm okay. Job is hurting. We're going to talk next week about the prayer that Job says to God and how it does not show a man who's strong in his faith. He's weak. He's hurting. But listen to the next thing that Job does in chapter 1, verse 20. It says, Job arose, he tore his robe, he shaved his head, and fell on the ground and worshiped. He said, naked I come from my mother's womb, naked shall I return. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Look, I don't know about you, but that's not how I would have responded. Job has everything in his life stripped away, and he is hurt, he is cut to the very core, but after all of that, he worships God because he understands that God is in control, that He has the power, and that at any moment, because God is the one who gives it, God may also take it for His purposes that we don't understand. And Job falls down and he worships God because he has the right view of God, and that is, even if I lose everything, I will lack nothing. That is a hard place to get to. It is easy for me to stand up here having driven here in a car and from a nice home with a wonderful family where I ate a good meal today and say, if I had lost everything, I would lack nothing. It's easy to say that until you're in those situations when you feel like you have lost everything. And so I don't say these things lightly. I don't say these things as someone who has mastered them myself. I'm saying these things as someone who's looked to the Scriptures, and I'm just telling you, I believe if we can get our minds to a place where we view God as what is most important, and that if we lose all other things, that He's still there with us, it will help. Again, look, this isn't easy, but if we live our lives in a way in which we say, if I do good things, then God's just going to do good things for me, we're just going to be disappointed, because that's not how God works. I'm afraid there might be some individuals who are sitting there and they are thinking, wait a second, if I do good, all that I am guaranteed is God. That seems to me like a waste of energy. And if I'm just being honest, there may be individuals who think that way. Whoa, I just do my very best, I strive to live a righteous life, and in the end, all I get is God. And my answer for you is, yeah. And you may not be in a place in your life right now where that seems worth it, but let me just tell you, it is. because we serve a God who created all things, is over all things, and he still cares about you enough to promise that if you seek after him, he will always be there for you. You may be in a place right now of darkness and struggle where that right there doesn't seem like enough. And let me just tell you, keep fighting, keep pushing, because I promise you, if we view God for who he really is, the great things he's already done for us, the promises that he has for our future, then God is enough. If all we have is God, that's enough. I don't know how often you think about heaven, but my 6-year-old has been asking me tons of questions lately about heaven. Just this afternoon, are there going to be pets in heaven? I said, I don't know. She said, if I go to heaven as a little kid, am I going to be a little kid forever? I said, I don't know. These are great questions. Keep them coming. And I'm just going to keep saying, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know your thoughts on heaven, but if heaven is just an eternity of me sitting in the presence of God, that's going to be enough. You may not view it that way, and that may be because you are going through some great troubles in your life, and you may even be upset or angry at God. But let me just tell you, he will not abandon you. He is with you. He will always be with you. And we need to try to get away from this thought that if we do good things, God is always going to do good things for us. God promises that if we do good and we seek after him, he will always, always be there for us. Now, this may not have been the practical lesson that you were looking for. And I promise you in the weeks ahead, we're going to talk about some more practical things that we can do to hopefully get to a place of joy if we are wrestling with depression. But we have to start with these things because until we lay this foundation, your depression can never become joy because you will always have the wrong view of God. And even if you get through your current struggles, the next time something bad happens, our thoughts are going to run right back to where they first were. Well, why me? Why are bad things happening to me? I'm a good person. I'm trying my best. We have to understand the way that God works in order for us to overcome that depression. And so we are going to spend some time next week talking about some real life things I think all of us can do to wrestle with that. Not on our own, but together. But that's coming next week. And I'm going to end every week the same way. Because I do think there are some of you who, like me, coming down off that mountain at camp, are saying, I am just fine. But on the inside, you are definitely not okay. You are struggling with depression, and it may even feel overwhelming for you. And I know that we always offer a public invitation, and we're going to here in a moment, but I also want to let you know that this invitation is not just something you can respond to by coming down and sitting on the front pew tonight. Whether it's a friend, whether it's a minister on staff, whether it's one of our elders, whether it's a spouse, whoever it may be in your life, I want you to be willing to go to someone and say, you know what? I'm not okay. I am really struggling. Guys, there is a problem in our churches in which we are afraid to open up. And part of that is fear on our own part, but part of that is because we as a church don't always do a great job when people finally do open up. And so for those of you who are not okay, I want to encourage you to sit down with someone and say, look, those things that we've been talking about, I'm not okay. I'm not sure what it is. I'm not sure what's gotten me to this point, but I feel like I need to tell someone. And if you are that person that someone comes to and tells you that, guess what? You may feel overwhelmed. That's okay. The best thing you can do is just sit and listen and pray with them. But each and every week, I want to encourage anyone who is struggling with these things to open up about it. There is nothing in this life that is too big to work through if we do it together and if we do it with God.